Rogers TV St. John's.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Laurabel. On today's episode, we're going to get the chance to sit and chat with Andy Jones and his upcoming play, which is Don't Give Up on Me, Dad. We also get the chance to talk to Nikki Baldwin, who is the Executive Director of Planned Parenthood, Newfoundland and Labrador. It's going to be an exciting and interesting and heartwarming conversation, so sit back, relax, and we'll catch you after the break. Welcome back, everyone. I'm now joined by the one and only Andy Jones, who is an actor and a writer and a producer. But we're going to be talking about different things with him today. Andy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
So when you walked in, we were catching up because the last time you were on Out of the Fog was about 7 years ago, which was before my time. But you've been busy since then.
Yes, yeah. Well, I've been doing lots of little projects and writing a bunch of children's books I've done since then. And I have a new one out called Barefoot Helen and the Giants. It's based on a Newfoundland folktale.
Yes.
And also, I have two granddaughters now, so like I say, that's the major event of our life.
Okay, so you're an extra busy being an actor, writer, and producer, but you're also grandpa.
I'm grandpa, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, I hardly even know the little second one. She's only 6 months old. I've only met her when she was born, and but the other, my older granddaughter, Franny, is, like we're tight.
Oh, that's so great to hear.
Yeah.
For our viewers who might not know who Andy Jones is,
yeah, of course.
let's let them know who you are.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm an actor and a writer, and I'm from St. John's. I grew up here, and I've been involved in the theater and in film and in television for 52 years, I think now, or something. I've worked down at the LSPU Hall down on Victoria Street lots of times over the year. I was like one of the founding members of the current organization. And we made lots of we made one feature film here, and we've tended to stay here most of the time and produce things out of here, although we've toured. Most of the things we toured nationally, at least, and the odd time we've been out of the country.
Okay, so when Andy was younger, did you always think you were going to be a writer, actor, and producer, or was this something you just kind of tripped and fell into?
No, I kind of wanted to do that, and like even as kids, we were always, doing sketch comedy or fooling around and mostly making fun of teachers, which is, every kid does that, of course, for teachers. And so and my father had a tape recorder, so we used to do sketches on the tape recorder, and I always kind of wanted to do that. And it was the era of sketch comedy, so I wanted to do that if I could. But I didn't think, when I was in high school in St. John's in the 60s, that was possible. Like I thought, how do you do that? And then eventually I heard, some people went to the National Theatre School, and I sort of thought, yeah, I guess it's possible. But so I went to university, and then eventually in university I started to do it. And then when I got to a certain point where I went, this is it.
Okay. So for your this is it moment, do you remember your first feature time you walked onto the stage? Which one was it for you?
That I knew I wanted to do it?
Yeah.
I can't remember it being on stage. I remember thinking that at a certain point I was at university, I went I've got to do this thing. Yes, I do remember, I remember going and seeing a play in Toronto.
Okay.
And the theater was so dirty, it was the Theater Passe Muraille, and that the actor had white gloves on in the show, and the gloves were like black from the dirt. And I thought, I could fit in here. Like they will accept me here, right? And this was an era before people were, mostly everybody in the theater hadn't been to theater school.
Okay.
So it was all just beginning. It was the beginning of Canadian theater, local, real, whatever you call it, the theater. So I remember that thinking, yeah. And then I actually went back and got my first job at that theater eventually.
Okay, that's a really cool way to figure out this is my place and these are my people.
I knew I could get the feeling that that these guys were not like looking for something really refined.
So over the years, I'm sure you have become more refined in what you do.
I'm so refined now. Yeah.
So I know you have an upcoming play that is going to be at the LSPU Hall.
Yeah.
Says that's "Don't Give Up on Me, Dad."
Right.
So, what's the origin of that story?
Well, I should say first also, I've done, this will be my 6th one-man show.
Okay.
So I've always, starting in 1997, I guess, or 98, I started to do these shows, which are kind of like sort of stand-up, or I call them sit-down comedy, because I'm usually sitting down or whatever. And so I talk about my own life and just observations and stuff like that, and hopefully humorous. And of course, then we were struck, our lives were changed incredibly in 2014 when our son, Louis, took his own life. He was 28 years old, and he had suffered, terrible struggles, of the heart, the soul, the brain, the mind, so he eventually got to the point where he just couldn't live anymore, and he took his own life. So that, so I, because I always talk about my life, I sort of thought I would try to do something about him. Now this is 9 years ago, but of course for a while I got the idea on the go, and I thought, I can do this like that. And I wrote these, outlines of what I might do, and then I don't know if I was still in shock, and then I kind of crashed a lot for a bunch of years and found it very difficult to even think about that. And then actually in 2016, when our granddaughter was born, Frances, I went down to the States where she was being born, and that's when I started to say, well, maybe I'll try to do something. And I actually got all his medical records. You can get your own medical records, right? They cost 50 cents a page. And that was 1,643 pages. That 50 cents a page was $821.50. Anyway, I got that. And so I started then, and I started to collate all the papers and all the notes I'd written into years. And then I kept working and working. I went to Banff in 2018 for a month, and then eventually I spoke to the Resource Center for the Arts at the LSPU Hall. Nicole Russo was the artistic director, and I proposed it to them, and they helped me give some money to keep me writing, and then eventually they said that they would produce it. And so now we're right down in 2 weeks' time, we'll be on stage.
Okay, so this is definitely so from my understanding, you're telling Louis' story through your eyes. I
am. It's kind of a memoir of him, and it's a little bit about his passage through the mental health system, and just some observations and lots of funny. I try to make the show as funny as I can. So I'm telling stories, stuff that he did, and the kind of kid he was, and how much fun he was sometimes, and how difficult it was other times, right? So it's kind of a mix of all those things.
So over the course of writing this obviously very personal and heartwarming story, are there some key moments where you're like, this is my Louis, and I really want people to see this him? Yes,
that's a good way of putting it. I think that there were so many things about him. Like he was enormously physically able, and he learned physically, and he was always a good athlete. He was never like the best athlete. I always said about Louis, he was like at the top of the All-Star Bs or at the bottom of the All-Star A's in baseball and hockey. And that's sort of where he stood. But he couldn't do anything. He could play golf. He could play soccer. He just loved all sports, and he was physically very able. So like when he was a little boy, like about 4 years old, for example, he used to climb me. Like if I was standing up outside, he would just come up and he started like that, and he would just climb right up, and he would stand on my shoulders and just balance.
Oh my, okay.
And like I could carry on a conversation, no problem like that, right? You know what I mean?
Okay.
And he spent lots of time up there. Like, you know, and if he wasn't up there, of course, he was always at the top of the monkey bars. He was that kid. You know, and even before he went to hospital, you know, he was like, he used to do parkour, you know, parkour,
Yes.
where you jump from building to
Yes.
building and all that stuff. My God. You know, he was like, kind of like Spider-Man. So that was it. And he, you know, he was, you know, he had a really extreme, exciting, crazy edge to him most of the time. So like, I always think people were in one of two camps. They were either in like, this kid is too much, or this kid is too much, right? Which I often felt sometimes myself like that, you know what I mean? And I saw that look on, you know, so many people's faces over the years, like, you know, when they would get upset by him, and like their teacher, we had a teacher in grade 10 who said he was the worst student he'd ever had. It was a great day in our lives. And I always think that was one of the times that Louis said, "Don't give up on me, Dad." So he used to say that to me. He started saying that when he was quite young.
Okay.
And, you know, I guess I'm not sure where he thought he was heading or whatever, but I remember him saying that, like, you know, just like that, "Don't give up on me, Dad." You know what I mean? Like, and I would say, "I will never give up on you, Louis." And, you know, then as the years went on, it became, you know, a more perilous statement he was making, I guess, because he knew that he was in trouble. He really was diagnosed with, and I think very definitely had, from everything I've read a lot of stuff about it since then, with obsessive compulsive disorder. And, you know, that can have a huge range. Like, people can have pretty, you know, some little difficulties here and there. And then there are people who have extreme, and I would call, I guess they do call it pure obsessive compulsive, where you have intrusive thoughts. Yeah. You can't stop these intrusive thoughts. And that's really, in the end, I think, what made him take his own life.
We've gotten to hear so much about the beauty of Louis' life and all of the sad things in between. But before we let you go, what days are you performing this so everyone can get to know Louis the same way you showed us?
The show opens on May 31st, which is like 2 weeks from now, and it closes on the 11th of June. And there are 2 pay what you can days, so anyone should be able to go pay whatever you want to pay at the door. And there's 1 live stream during that. So they check with the hall, LSPU Hall, a resource center for the arts.
I want to thank you so much, Andy, for joining me, for sharing Louis with me and the viewers. And I know I'm definitely going to be checking out the play because I want to know more about Louis
Thank you
and his
so
life.
much. It was so nice to talk to you. It was very nice.
And we'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. We're now joined by Nikki Baldwin, who's the Executive Director of Planned Parenthood, Newfoundland and Labrador. Nikki, thanks for joining me.
Hi, it's great to be here.
So I'm really excited to get the chance to talk to you about all things Planned Parenthood, dispel a little bit of the mystery behind what people think you guys do, and let them know what you actually do and how you support community. So let's start with, what is Planned Parenthood?
So Planned Parenthood Newfoundland and Labrador is a standalone charity, so we're not part of the giant Planned Parenthood Federation. In Canada, we're all kind of connected, but we don't share any sort of upper management.
Okay.
And we are a charity that provides sexual health services to everyone, and also services to improve the social determinants of health for 2S LGBTQIA plus individuals.
Okay, so that basically wipes out the rumor of what people think Planned Parenthood is. Okay, so over the years, you guys have been very busy. So what services and resources do you guys provide now?
Yeah, so we've been in the community for 50 years. But right now, the services we provide are sexual health clinics. So 5 days a week, we're running sexual health clinics for anything from PAPs to STIs to if you need a referral to a gynae. We get out in community, so we're in schools, businesses, workplaces, community organizations providing education on a variety of topics. So sexual health, inclusion, diversity. We love doing puberty presentations. They're our absolute favorite, especially for like girl guide groups. It's so cute. And sports groups. It's really fun to do them because they're already little close-knit groups, so they're very like open with their questions.
Oh my, I did not know you guys did that. So first of all, that's very cool because I remember being young and when you learn it in school, it's a little bit more awkward. So
for sure. We crush a lot of little girls' dreams by telling them that they will have a period for the rest of their lives or for a long period of time. A lot of them do think it only lasts during puberty, so it's kind of a little rude awakening.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, so we do the education. We also do public education, which is fun, mostly through like our social media. We have a pretty cool TikTok. Not gonna lie, it took off way more than we thought it was going to, and it's actually like shocking. So we have like nearly 50,000 followers, which is super cool.
That is like, I follow you guys on TikTok because I follow you on everything, but your TikTok is an amazing resource of easily digestible but really important information for people.
Yeah, it's really cool. It came from us really wanting to do it, but then we had some social work students who were like, hey, can we actually take this and make it a project? And we were like, absolutely, please. And then it took off, and one of those social work students actually became our first wellness coordinator, Nicole. So she basically created her position, which is super cool. And our TikToks are wonderful because we'll get questions from kids in school and then we'll be able to answer them on our TikTok, and then they see themselves as well on like TikTok, which is super cool. And then wellness, so our wellness position also provides harm reduction Saturdays, which is both an effort to be open on the weekends, but also we give out harm reduction supplies, so like safer sex, safer drug supplies, as well as like snacks and stuff in the community, which is really cool. And that's amazing. So, and then we have some 2S LGBTQIA program. Honestly, we do so much.
You guys are a busy organization.
So the big thing coming up is Camp Eclipse will be this either late August or early September, and it's a leadership camp for 2S LGBTQIA plus youth. And the idea behind it, it's my favorite thing. It's pure magic.
Okay.
This will be our 15th year.
15 years of Camp Eclipse.
15 years of Camp Eclipse.
Okay, all right. You guys have been busy.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful because like in the beginning we discovered that like 2S LGBTQI people don't have that opportunity to like go to camp in the same like amazing free way that other youth do. And then this combines being able to do those traditional camp things without worrying about gender or sexuality, also while building leadership in the community, because a lot of these kids come from tiny rural places where if they need a leader, they're gonna have to be that leader. Oh, wow. And we've seen it work. So like the progress we've seen over 15 years, it's been amazing. And like you see all these really cool like queer people out leading things and you're like, oh, that's a camp baby.
Oh goodness. So you talked a little bit about harm reduction, but for a lot of our viewers who might not know what that means, what is the whole idea behind harm reduction and how does it play out in all of your services? Because I know it is the baseline of what you guys do. Yeah,
so harm reduction is absolutely everything we do is harm reduction. So the idea is that you can't make people's choices for them. People are going to choose what they want to do in their lives, and you don't know anything about them. You don't have a place to make decisions for them. But what we can do is we can reduce harm in everything they do. So the way I love to think about it is seatbelts. So cars are inherently dangerous, but we're going to drive them. So seatbelts are harm reduction.
Okay.
And it's just that simple.
Okay, so you're providing seatbelts for life for people, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, you guys are a lot cooler than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah, we're pretty cool.
So over the past, you guys have been around for 50 years.
Yeah.
How long have you been with the organization?
5 years this summer.
Okay, what have been some standout moments for you with your time in the organization?
Our big move. So for the first time in like, I think
Ever.
25 years maybe. Yeah, so we made a big move from our tiny little building on Mary Meeting Road that everyone remembers as Planned Parenthood into a new, beautiful building. It's about twice the size. We're still filling it, so. But it's beautiful. It's at 47 St. Clair Avenue, so it's just up the hill from the hospital, which is really convenient if you need to leave us and get blood work done. But it has a little parking lot. There's lots of street parking, and so people can actually drop in and visit us, which is really cool. Parking was definitely an issue before.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about some of your programs and some of your services. Are there any programs that you hold near and dear to your heart? Or like, if no one does anything else with Planned Parenthood, this is the one I want them to be part of?
I absolutely can't lie. It's definitely camp because camp was my first experience with Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
I was the camp coordinator in 2014, so a long time ago, and it just absolutely changed my life, even as like the coordinator, even as mentors. So we talk about it being for youth, but the adults absolutely get changed and healed too, especially seeing how far the youth have come since we were youth. The things they know, it's wild. It's like absolutely wild. The things they already know. We're like, you're so ahead of us. And then, so our 2S LGBTQIA plus warm line, which unfortunately is not currently running because we don't have funding for it. But we were getting like so many calls and from so many different people, especially adults, because we find that 2S LGBTQIA plus adults are really underserved because everyone's focused on the youth, but in rural places, those people didn't have a chance to come out when they were youth.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're looking for funding for that now.
So you guys are a registered charity, right?
We are.
Okay, so if people are inspired and they're watching and they're like, I want to contribute to Planned Parenthood, now I know what you guys do in the community. How do they find you? Where do they find you? How do they give?
Yeah, so they can give on our website, our Planned Parenthood, nlshc.com, or through our link tree has a direct donation link at the top and it wiggles at you, which is really cute. And I absolutely want people to know that like every single dollar we get in goes back to the community. Like we do things for as cheap as we can. There's not a lot of overhead cost at Planned Parenthood. We are 100%, we get $10, that $10 is buying condoms. Like everything is just going back into the community, which I find with some charities just doesn't happen.
So as we look ahead into the next 50 years of Planned Parenthood, knock on wood, what do you guys want to see for this organization and for the communities that you serve?
Oh, we would love to see the ability to have more clinics and specific clinics to different identities so that they felt safe coming in, especially when we're talking about transgender healthcare. Because we know in this province, it should be something that a family doctor does, but family doctors don't have the experience, and maybe it's not where you feel safe. And there's a massive lack of doctors who are able to provide that care. And so it'd be amazing if we could provide that one day, if we could provide care for a vulnerable population the next day. So like people who are struggling with housing, especially international students without healthcare. We see that a lot.
Oh, wow.
And we've seen it more since COVID. So lots of people here without insurance. And what we're talking about is communicable diseases. So we don't want people walking around with that, even for our own selfish sake. But also, we just love to help people. I would love to grow. I'd love to help work with the school board to actually change the curriculum so that maybe we didn't have to go into schools and teach these things, or when we did, it was extra, not the only thing they were getting. And some schools are amazing at it, and some teachers are amazing at it, but we find it's those schools and teachers being amazing, not the base standard. I would love to see Planned Parenthood have more centers across Newfoundland and Labrador, and especially in Labrador. It's so underserved, and it's been amazing because we have telehealth now, so you can talk to our doctors by phone. And so we've actually been able to serve like small communities and Labrador, but not enough. So that's really where our eyes are focused, is getting actual access across the whole province.
Okay. So I think we got one more minute before I have to let you go. If there was one thing that you wanted our audience to know about Planned Parenthood, the community you serve, or just the work that you guys are doing, what would you want them to know?
That we love the work we do, that we're passionate, and that we're really striving to be a caring and safer place. And if you don't think we are, we want to hear from you. And that we are a standalone charity, that we have very limited funding, and we're very underfunded from the government, and we're not funded by the federal government at all. So we are always looking for money, and we're always looking for new ways to take care of you with that money.
And just reminding people, Planned Parenthood is for everyone.
Planned Parenthood is for everyone. There's no age limit. There's no limits at all. So anyone can walk in. We see 12-year-olds, we see 65-year-old women. It's amazing.
I want to thank you, Nikki, so much for joining me, sharing about Planned Parenthood. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
We'll be right back, everyone. I want to thank you all for tuning in for another episode. I want to thank Andy for sharing Louis' story with us. If you want to find out more about his play, feel free to check out the LSPU Hall website. They do have pay what you can viewing, so you can go and check it out that way. Also want to thank Nikki for talking to us about Planned Parenthood and what they actually do within our province. It's been fun chatting with our guests, and it's been fun spending time with you for another day. And I'll catch you guys next time.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
If you have a comment about this program, we'd love to hear it. Email or call us, or send us your feedback through social media.
We all start on different bases, and only some of us make it safely home. Anyone can get stuck on first, without a clear path to home base.